Hello everyone. This is part 1 of our ThatQuiz assignment for NQ2. So you're going to find your name in the drop down menu and then type in GCVS as the password and hit OK. And once you do, this is the first problem you should see, and it is the square root of 49. So notice if I look at my square root chart, first of all, just notice that I have a whole chart of perfect squares pulled up as well as my calculator. So I definitely recommend you having those tools ready to go as you're working through all of these assignments. I see 49 is a perfect square, and our answer is going to be 7 because the square root of 49 is 7, since 7 squared gets us 49. Beautiful. Then I'm going to hit OK. Beautiful. So we typed in 7 and hit OK. Here's the next one is 2 times the square root of 81. Well, the square root of 81 is a perfect square. We see it on our list. 9 squared gets us 81. So this problem is essentially saying, what is 2 times 9? Which of course gets us to 18. So you're going to plug in 18 and hit OK. The next one is the square root of 300. So 300 is not a perfect square, so we want to find numbers that multiply to 300. So I think of 100 is certainly a perfect square, and 300 is 100 times 3. So the square root of 100 is 10, and then we're left with square roots of 3. So we pulled out a perfect square of 10, and then on the inside we still have that root 3. Beautiful. Here's the next one, 72, the square root of 72. So if I look at my chart of perfect squares, I do not see 72. So we want to think about how we can split it up, right? And we can always split it up using multiplication. So the perfect square 9 multiplies to 72. But also a bigger number is 36 times 2 gets us 72. So the square root of 36 is 6, and then the square root of 2 is left over. So we have 6 root 2. Beautiful. And you can hit OK when you're all set. Remember, you can pause the video at any time. Do what you need to take care of yourself, friends. Square root of 75, when we look at our square root list, I do not see 75, but I know that 25 multiplies to 75. So we can split this up as the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. The square root of 25 is 5 root 3. And if you weren't sure, you could just take that number 75 and divide it by these perfect squares. So you'd see 75 divided by 64 does not work. 75 divided by 49, nope, we get a decimal. Oh, but when you divide it by 36, it does not work. But when you divide it by 25, we get that integer. So you can always take a number and just divide it by perfect squares until you find one that goes in evenly. Okay, our next one is the square root of 90x squared. So I like to split this up and think about it in 2 different parts. 90 is not a perfect square, but I know 9 goes into it, right? 9 times 10 gets us 90, so we can split that up that way. The square root of 9, if we look at our chart here, is 3. So we have 3 square roots of 10. That is how we simplify the square root of 90. The square root of x squared, remember, if the root and the power are the same, they just cancel out and we're left with an x. So we have a 3x that got pulled out times the square root of 10. So on the outside we have 3x On the inside, we have 10. Okay. And then go ahead and hit OK when you're ready. Beautiful. 400y squared z. So essentially we have the square root of 400. We have the square root of y squared, and these are all being multiplied. And then we have the square root of z. 400 is a perfect square. Ooh, nice, perfect. It's 20. So this is just 20. The square root of y squared, square root, and squaring cancel, and we're just left with a y, times, we still have a square root of z. There's no simplifying to be done there, so it just stays inside the radical. So on the outside we have 20y, on the inside we have z. And go ahead and hit OK when you're all set. Beautiful. Here's our next one, the square root of 108. And then we also have the square root of a. And then we have the square root of b squared. And these are all multiplied. We can just pull them apart and look at them individually. 108 is not a perfect square. And I don't know a number that goes into 108 evenly. So I'll just go through the perfect squares list that are smaller than 108. 100 does not work. 81, that's a decimal. Now I'm going up to 64. That doesn't work. 49, nope. How about 36? Ooh, 36 works. So we can split this up as the square root of 36 times the square root of 3. Square root of 36, looking at my chart right here, is just 6. So we have 6 times the square root of 3. And we still have a square root of a. We can't do anything with that because there's only 1. But then the square root of b squared, we can pull that b out. So on the outside, we have a 6 and a b. And inside our radical sign, we have a 3 and an a. Go ahead and plug that in and hit OK when you're ready. For the next one, we have the square root of 80, m squared, n squared. So there's our square root of 80. And I just write them separately each time. You do not have to do that. If that helps your brain, awesome. If you feel good about breaking it down while they're all still under the same radical sign, beautiful. Totally do that. 80 is not a perfect square. So I'm going to divide it by numbers that are smaller than it to find a perfect square that goes into 80. And 16 does. So we can split up 80 to be 16 times 5. So we have the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. Square root of 16 is 4 times the square root of 5. And then looking at our variables, we have the square root of m squared. That cancels and we can pull out an m. And the square root of n squared also cancels and we can pull out an n. So we have 4mn times root 5. 4mn times root 5. And then hit OK. Beautiful. All right, let's look at this next one. I'm actually going to pause the video here, and to finish up this activity, you're going to take a look at part 2, okay? Y'all rock. Beautiful work today, everyone. Take care.